when we make it through the other side of this break, I'm going to be joined with our very special guest, Daniel Bennett of the Daniel Bennett Trio. And we speak about Twitter a lot on this broadcast. He is one of the great tweeters out there today. So we're going to be talking about it all. We're going to have some fun. We're going to have some laughs. It's all coming up on the other side of this break. Marvelous Mike and Friends. And we are back on this very special Marvelous Mike and Friends. And I had a misnomer before we went to break. There are 3 of them, but it is not the Daniel Bennett Trio. It's the Daniel Bennett Group. And I feel ashamed that I didn't know that. But I am joined now with the leader and the namesake of that group and a very special guest and friend of the programs, Mr. Daniel Bennett joins us now on the program. How are you, good sir?
I'm very well, thank you. And you'll be hearing from my lawyer about the mishap with the name. That's okay.
Well,
you're a friend. I forgive you.
I didn't say the Danny Bennett Trio, at least.
True. And
yes.
I always tell people, Danny's okay. Dan is off limits.
Okay, it's all right. We will make sure that we know that when we post the episode. But how are you doing? We see such wonderful things about you online, on the radio. It's great to that you're able to join us today.
It's good to be here, Michael. Yeah, it's been a crazy morning, and I'm glad we got to set this up. I actually just got back from LaGuardia Airport. Yes, I went there on purpose. Not to go to the airport. I actually went to the rental. I went to Alamo Rental, which actually is a lot more. The rental car companies are the lot is a lot more pretty than the actual airport. So I would suggest that if you're going to LaGuardia, just go to the rental cars and avoid the airport. So, because the airport looks like a war zone.
Well,
and it has, yeah.
I believe our former vice president said that the war zones and third world countries have it better than LaGuardia. So,
yeah.
I'm sorry you had to experience that this morning.
Well, Mike, I was going to tell you, the funny thing is I actually read recently that flights out of LaGuardia are actually pretty reliable. Like when they actually break down the best airports, it's just that the actual airport looks like garbage. But the flights actually do somehow take off from that airport.
I guess because no one wants to fly out of there.
Good point.
Yeah. But Daniel, we first came to know each other. Oh gosh, has to be about 6 years ago when you played in the pit for Hairspray, right? That was the first show you did with us?
It was. It was an In the Wings production.
Yes, sir.
At the beautiful Snug Harbor Cultural Center. And Tanya and all the directors and producers were saying, you gotta meet Mike Pinto because he's just like this ball of fire. He's like this energy. And yeah, I did, and I'm hooked. I'm a Michael fan, Marvelous Mike, and I will say you look really good for being 87 years old. So I'm a big fan of your show, so I know about that.
86, don't rush
sorry.
it. Or 39, as Jack Benny would say.
There you go.
And you played a few shows with us, and then we got you on board the Mighty Minty Orchestra. But you've gotten too famous for us, and you're flying all over the country these days.
Well, it's been busy. This is actually, we do about 100, my band does about 150 tour dates a year. But believe me, I love performing with you guys, so you will be seeing me soon. I know we've been writing about some summer stuff, so I'm just getting my schedule together and figuring out how I can make everything work. But I got to tell you, a big, high five. What a great production company and just a great operation over there at Snug Harbor. It's great. There's some great, and I got to network with some really cool musicians in the pit. You played in the pit. You've directed the pit. You've been on keyboard. It's a great family of people.
It really is, and I say that is what we've become. And I love using the same guys. And like I said, hope we get you back because the biggest compliment I get is that the band. It sounds like we were using a recording. So that's always a kudos to all the great guys and gals in the pit.
Well, I was just going to heap a little more praise on you, so if
please do then, by all means.
There you go. So I know most of your listeners, or some of your listeners, know about the Minty Awards.
Yes.
What an amazing concept. It's an awards show for Catholic high schools on Staten Island. wow, what a cool idea. And there's a lot of schools involved. You would think, oh, maybe there, what is, two or three? No, there's like, I don't know, a dozen or 10. There's a lot of schools involved, and you've created a platform for that. And I don't, how long has it been going? 6 years?
Yeah, this will be year 7 in June.
Wow.
So I know, very exciting, and hopefully we'll get some of the students on the show as we get closer to that. But that seeing the excitement that the kids have performing in front of 1,100 people is thrilling, and the greatest part of my job in relation to that. But
so cool.
I want to start at the beginning with you. Take us back to the early days, because you come from one of the great music capitals of the Northeast. And to take us through your early days, what led you into becoming one of the great masters of folk jazz, as your Wikipedia page calls you? And yes, he is on the Wikipedia.
Yeah, and my wife told me that they actually have my birth date on the Wikipedia page now. So I have no idea how they get all this information, but that's cool. So I always wanted to play saxophone as a kid. I started when I was 10. My sister took me to a high school jazz concert, and I heard a kid, his name was Chris Oldfield, and he played the Pink Panther on the tenor saxophone. And I was hooked at that point. I grew up in a little, very small town in western New York called Honeoye Falls. It's very hard to pronounce. It looks like Hanoia Falls. It's Honeoye, like honey and then oi, Honeoye Falls. Born and raised right just south of Rochester. So I'm a Rochester kid originally, Rochester, New York. We're about an hour and a half from Niagara Falls and, Buffalo, Syracuse. So
we have our entertainment correspondent lives up in Webster. Is that close by you?
I spent many years playing up in Webster. I knew a lot of musicians there. So I was hooked, and then I very quickly picked up, in high school, picked up some flute and clarinet, oboe, piccolo, got private lessons from a guy named Greg Knapp, who could play a gazillion woodwind instruments, and I had never seen someone actually do that. I thought he was the only person that could do that. I didn't realize there was a whole world of people who doubled on multiple instruments, and nowadays it's just expected. You have, if you play saxophone, you have to play flute and clarinet, and now oboe or bassoon is now part of the arsenal. It's just expected. So then I moved to Boston shortly after I did my undergrad in Rochester. Went to Boston to go to the New England Conservatory. Got my butt kicked. I'm one of those oddballs who studied classical saxophone. Yes, that does exist.
Is there such a thing?
Mike, there actually is. And it's funny. I usually don't mention this in interviews because people get really funny ideas about classical saxophone. I did it because I wanted to learn a lot of extended technique, altissimo, multiphonics. I wanted to study all the modern repertoire. I did a lot of French stuff, Glazunov, Ibert, Creston, Desenclos, some really cool modern saxophone music. Studied with Ken Radnofsky, who plays sax with the Boston Symphony. So it was a good experience, even though all along I was really just a jazz musician at the same time. So
I'm trying to think.
Anyways, go ahead.
No, just if what period would classical saxophone be considered?
The earliest, believe it or not, Berlioz, Ravel, even Debussy had a piece for saxophone called Rhapsody. Yeah, there were some very early, even Rachmaninoff. There's a very famous piece called Symphonic Dances with a very famous saxophone solo in it. So there were some very early, romantic turn-of-the-century composers who took a chance on the saxophone. And then, 20th century is really where it exploded. Just a lot of just chamber music, saxophone and piano, just a lot of that. And then, all the orchestras began to sort of take a chance on it. Actually, speaking of my old teacher, Ken Radnofsky, the first classical saxophone recording I heard was the piece by Debussy, Rhapsody, and it was performed, Ken soloed with the New York Philharmonic. Wow. So I was kind of blown away that major symphonies were taking a chance on the saxophone. And I'm not unusual. There's a lot of jazz musicians who actually went to school for classical music. So it does exist. I know, it's funny.
Now, what members of the sax family do you call your own?
Well, I have, I own it. I mean, I play alto, tenor, soprano, and baritone. My main horn would be alto sax. But there's a few more. I don't own everything. I don't. There's no need for it. But there's a
Hmm.
baritone sax or a bass sax, contrabass sax. There's a thing called a sopranino, which is a tiny little. It looks like a soprano saxophone, but it's like half the size of a soprano sax. So the inventor was a guy named Adolph Sax. Obviously the name, and Adolph Sax. I believe the first horns that he built were the alto saxophones, but you can go to a lot of museums and look at all these saxophones. There's quite a history, even though it actually is the youngest instrument in the band family. I mean, it's very young compared to other instruments.
And I don't know if you remember, but our last show we played together, which I think was Shrek, I started dabbling in the tenor sax family. So,
Yes.
still, well,
Oh,
it hasn't
I
gotten
do
much
remember
better.
that.
Yes.
Are you still playing?
Well, you know what? I have my beginner books for the sax and the clarinet. I will say clarinet I'm much more comfortable with than the sax, but neither of them I'm ready to take out on the road just yet.
Well, I don't know, Michael. I think you could pull it off.
We'll see.
You know?
Maybe this year
Yeah,
at the
you just
Minties.
gotta know what works. Pick the good notes and avoid the bad notes, and you'll have a career in it.
And I just have to play everything in C.
Yes, of course.
Yes.
It sounds better. See, there you go.
Now, I want to know, why is it so hard, maybe just because it's Staten Island, to find an oboe English horn doubler that also does sax and clarinet? You people are impossible to find for shows.
You know what? This is funny. I'm gonna have to send you an email with some additional names, because I know a few people on Staten Island who do play all that.
I know too, and I bet I already contacted one of them. They're both great musicians. Barry Dellman. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Yeah,
and then his name is escaping me right now. Oh, Ray Wheeler, the great Ray Wheeler.
Yeah, I think I know that name. Yeah, but keep calling me too.
No, I want you. Don't worry.
I'm sorry, I haven't been around for a year or two, but believe me, I mean, I love coming out. Again, to tell your listeners, I'm going to say it because I'm a third party coming in there, as a hired gun, and I can tell you the productions are so professional. They're packed. Every show is packed. It's such a great thing that you guys are doing.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And yes, I have some more dates that I need to send you after our chat is over. So hopefully we can make some of them work. But when did you first arrive in New York? And let's talk about the birth of the Daniel Bennett group.
The group started when I was at New England Conservatory in Boston, and I wanted to write music that blended folk music, rock, and modern jazz. I didn't want it to sound overly chromatic, pretentious jazz. Believe me, I could go all day discussing that, but I wanted something that was accessible, but just quirky enough that I could use it to improvise over. If the chord structure is just too simple, it's almost impossible to play. Well, I shouldn't say that, but it's more challenging to play to solo. You need something a little quirky and unusual to give yourself a jumping off point. So it's hard to put into words. Critics have called it avant pop, which actually is a real term. It's kind of surf rock elements. New wave. I always loved. I grew up listening to the Depeche Mode, the Smiths, the Cure. So there's some '80s new wave pop mixed in, and we tour as a trio. My guitar player has a million pedals, so he can fill up the sound, and he's got like a looping pedal, so he can create additional instruments like to play on top of. It's pretty amazing. So that's how people ask us, because we do a lot of tour dates. We just got back from Florida. We're going to be in San Francisco next week. And people say, how do you do this as a trio? It seems like there should be more musicians. There's no bass in the touring trio. But it's very possible. And nowadays, thankfully, the conventions have been broken and groups are starting to play with smaller, unconventional instrumentation. So we have taken advantage of that. So the group is celebrating, I think 12 years being on the road, performing. I mean, I was full blown, even when I was a kid, I was forming bands. So my concept has never changed since I was young. So that's how it went down. We played all over Boston, some great venues in Boston, the Beehive, Riles. We played every week at the Liberty Hotel, which is a great hotel in Boston. It's actually a five-diamond hotel that was converted. It originally was a prison, and they converted it into a hotel. So, pretty cool, right?
Yeah, I'll have to check it out next time I'm up there.
Yeah, go to Boston and check it out. It's right by the hospital. So, anyways, all that, a lot of stuff happened, and I met my wife at a concert. It was just a lot of crazy stuff. My wife is an angel, by the way. She's a big music fan. Grateful for her. So we got married and we moved. We've been in New York, I don't know, 8 or 9 years maybe.
Was she a groupie of yours originally?
I like to think that she was. She definitely is now. I mean, she's a little biased. You know, she's a big fan, but yeah, she's great. She's incredible. Her name's Gretchen, and we have 2 wonderful kids, Naomi and Hudson.
Beautiful children, and they are adorable. Everything that you post of them online.
You know what's funny, man? I mean, people, and I love that about just meeting people. Like even right now, being on your show, it's just people are more interested in the human side of what I do. So they want to talk about kids. How is Naomi and Hudson? They love the pictures, and I can appreciate all that because at the end of the day, that's really what this is about. You can play music all over the world, and that's fine. But if you have no human side to what you're doing, you're gonna burn out really fast. So, anyways, that's the short story. And now we're living in Manhattan. We're on the Upper East Side, right across from the 92nd Street Y, which is great. So I can take the kids over there almost every day for different activities. So it's nice.
That's great. And those, I tell you, that's wise words. Balance with work, with your life. That's the key to, I think, all success in the world. So that's...
Now, did I see that you're living in the city now or no? Are you...
No, I'm still on the island.
No, that's okay. Hey, Staten Island's beautiful.
Yes.
Oh,
office is in Midtown, though, so that's where...
Right, that's right. Well, you're a man about town.
Yes.
You live there. Everybody knows Marvelous Mike.
God willing.
Well, that's nice. Yeah, no, it's good. So you're in Midtown every day almost, I'm sure.
Yeah. Now, when did your first CD come out? And what was the process behind that? Was it self-funded? Did you guys, how did you go about putting that together?
Yeah, the first album was called A Nation of Bears. It's kind of an unusual title. Came out in 2005, and it was self-funded. We actually... This is before Kickstarter or anything. I did a lot of early funding for not just albums, but I used to produce a festival, several festivals, one in Rochester, one in Boston, a concert series, and we solicited money like through the mail, basically. I would just send people letters, people that I knew, and they would mail me a check. So I was pretty old school, you know.
That sounds like the plot to The Producers. I think we're going to have our accountants look into that.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. That's right. That's awesome. Yeah, so we did 3 albums based on bears. The second one was called The Legend of Bear Thompson, and then Peace and Stability Among Bears. And if you want to hear our Boston sound, those 3 albums are the go-to. That's really what we sounded like in Boston. Very, very folky, much more folk element. Now I would say it's more surf rock, pop kind of stuff. So, but yeah, you know how it is in the arts. You figure out a way. Thankfully, now we have really tremendous financial support, and we've been on labels. I've done things without labels, and of course, it's 2017, so you know. It doesn't matter in a way, I guess. So, but it's been you learn as you go. I mean, we've done this for a long time.
And you have a fantastic YouTube channel that we're going to put the link on once, along with the episode, so that our listeners can head over there, subscribe, and catch all the music, but also to go purchase it on iTunes as well.
Nice. I appreciate that. That's, yeah, we're easy to find. I mean, I put a lot of stuff out there. I know you and I connect a lot on Twitter.
So that's our next topic I want to delve into. You are a force to be reckoned with on Twitter just calling out the absurdities in life, the small nuances, and just really everything that goes on. You are, for many, the voice of their generation. And you, what goes through your mind when you're scrolling through the Twitter feed and what you decide to post?
You know what goes through my mind is let's be honest here, okay? You know what I mean? Let's be honest when we're especially in the music world. It's so politically correct, and nobody has any opinions or anything on the most when you look at what you see in the jazz scene. You know, have an opinion. I know people who I don't agree with, but I respect them because they have opinions and they put things out and they have a sense of humor. You know, and that's, people are afraid to, I don't know. I say things that I think generally resonate with people. The only thing that musicians post about is politics, which is just, it's absurd. And I mean, I'd rather jump off a building than read another post about politicians. I don't want to see it. You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to brag, Mike, but our numbers are going up. All our followers. I'm not. A lot of it is just because I'm just trying to be real, and I don't preach about politics. People don't want to come to see us play and listen to a Daniel Bennett diatribe about, you know, whatever, world events, current events. You know, they want to hear music. It's very divisive when you get into certain topics, but there are other topics that that are great because they're mildly controversial, but most people it resonates with a lot of people, and it's not insanely divisive.
And so I want to take a look at one of those topics that you've been posting about the past few hours as we were approaching the Easter holiday, and the potential recall of Cadbury eggs has you very on edge.
Yeah, 24 hours and counting. And I posted it yesterday, and everybody was talking about. Actually, I got a private message from 2 people who thought it was real.
Oh.
So I'm telling you right now, on the Marvelous Mike show, there is not a Cadbury egg recall yet. We have about 24 hours, 12 hours, 24 hours, and we'll be good. So most likely you're all going to be okay. So
we just have to get through the day.
Yeah, I got my eggs for the kids. I'm going to eat a few, so it's all good.
Let's see. I'm going. You had to have posted something about the United fiasco this week because that seems like something right up your alley.
I did. You know what? I did, and several billion people probably also posted about United this week. But you know the funny thing about United, man. Look, all the airlines overbook, and they do, and that's how they make money. And believe me, I'm a capitalist. I'm not someone who. I even question the boycott United thing, but I do think there has to be something about overbooking on purpose. So they overbook in the event a passenger doesn't show up, and then they can fill the seat or something like that. Anyway, so this poor guy got dragged off the airplane. He was a paid customer. The poor guy. He bought his ticket in good faith and got dragged off an airplane. But I hope, at the very least, maybe they can, pass a law and do something about the overbooking. Well, we've all been on flights. We've all been on flights where that happened. Actually, they pull people off airplanes a lot. It's just this guy actually spoke up, so good for him.
Mm-hmm. And I saw Delta told its people they could offer up to $10,000 for a passenger to get off the plane.
Delta did this?
Yes, that came at some point yesterday, that if people don't want to get off the plane, the employees are allowed to offer up to $10,000.
In cash?
Yes.
Wow.
So fly Delta.
Fly Delta. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I don't know. You go through security, you feel like a criminal, they're frisking you, it's like you're so on edge. And then they scream at you and this and that. Finally, you get in the plane, and you're still tense. Nobody is at ease until that plane is lifting off. Mm-hmm.
But now you must fly. You have, I guess, accumulated a lot of frequent flyer miles with all your tour dates.
I have, and we have several United flights coming up. And that's another thing. It's United actually, I believe, flies the most airplanes. Well, maybe not the most, but it's up there in the top 5. I mean, just thousands of United flights. It's a tough company to really take down. I mean, if you want a connecting flight, we had this a lot. You're going to get on a Delta or a United flight at some point, whether you like it or not. I know everybody is principled about this. Let's boycott, but and it's you get cheap deals on that airplane. I don't know. People, I have a feeling, people are still going to fly with them. They want to save money. I don't know. What are you going to do?
That's true. But I want to give it out. The Twitter handle is at Daniel Bennett NY, and he's also a great historian and loves his fun facts. So.
Oh, do I? Yes.
What do you have for us today? This is a big date. Actually, yesterday. It seemed that a lot of big stuff happened.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what I posted. Well, today, what's crazy today, I think it was 1865, is when President Lincoln died. And I was reading, I didn't realize that John Wilkes Booth, who assassinated Lincoln, I didn't realize that the plan was to kidnap Lincoln. That was their plan for all along. And then as it got closer to the date, they scrapped it. And we all know what happened next. But that's kind of a sad fact. Sorry, but I think that's the one I posted today.
And I think the Titanic also today is the anniversary.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Didn't realize.
Not a good day to go on a cruise or to the theater, I guess.
No. Yeah.
Now, and I believe we've had this argument before, so we could end this segment rather quickly. Being a northern upstate New York guy, western New York, New England, your sports allegiance does lie with the New England teams. Is that correct?
And now I'm nervous because you're going to hit that. You're going to hit that end call button. Yeah. You know what? Yes, I do. I do love the Patriots. I love the Red Sox. You know what was great about Boston? It's a smaller city, so people were just so committed to their sports teams. And people are, New York's a great sports town too, but it's so big. You can meet a lot of people still kind of are not aware of their sports teams here. But yeah, I know. Now, are you a Mets fan? You're a Mets fan,
No,
right?
please.
Oh.
Now I'll press that end call button.
You're awesome. Well, I always figured Staten Island, don't they always kind of go with Queens on sports, or no? Maybe okay. So you're
I will say there's a mix of Met fans and Yankee fans here.
I'm thinking of Rob Butler.
Yes. Oh yes. Yes, definitely.
He's a musician, been in all of our shows. Yeah, right. He's a diehard Mets fan.
Oh yes. If you want some good Facebook rants during baseball season, you go look him up.
I follow his stuff. He's hilarious. He gets so angry about these things. It's great. It's very entertaining. It's great.
We were closing out Beauty and the Beast last summer, and it was Hall of Fame induction weekend when Mike Piazza was getting inducted. And so, of course, he was so angry that he was missing it. So he wore his Piazza jersey. He was listening to it on his little radio headset down there in the pit. I said, just don't miss any cues. I don't care what you're listening to. Just keep playing.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's good. So you're a Yankees fan. Okay,
yes.
Well, that's okay. I forgive you. It happens. Even as a kid, I actually grew up as a Tigers fan. My mom is from Detroit. I never liked the Yankees. I don't know. It's just one of those.
Well, it's jealousy. Jealousy of the greatness. I understand that.
Wow. Wow.
Now, I want to ask a question. My co-host, who was very excited for you to come on, but unfortunately he could not be with us this morning. I didn't see the movie, but he wanted me to get your thoughts on the movie Whiplash.
I did see Whiplash, and I thought it was very entertaining. I thought it was great. I really did. And this is another thing. The jazz community got all up in arms and felt like it wasn't an accurate portrayal of jazz. And, it's a movie. It's fun. It was over the top, and that's how movies are. It was a huge blockbuster. And, the point was to give you sort of a just an over-the-top view, if they really wanted an accurate view of jazz, nobody would go to the theater. It would be. So I enjoyed it. Really, you know what it was? That movie is closer to what you see just in the music school culture, and that's if you look at it on those merits, it was cool. I thought it was music schools are petty and cutthroat, and not connected to reality. Most things in the music academia world are not connected to the realities of what performing musicians are dealing with. That's another rant, but yeah, that's another rant. So, I don't know. I thought it was a cool movie.
I've yet to see it. I want to see it, though. I have to find out where it is. Who are your jazz inspirations?
I grew up listening to Ornette Coleman and Paul Desmond, who are very different. Desmond, of course, played with Dave Brubeck and just had that nice, cool, smoky alto sax sound. And then Ornette Coleman was just this in-your-face, very strong horn player, sax player. So science fiction is probably my favorite. Science fiction and Shape of Jazz to Come. Great Ornette Coleman albums if people are looking to jump into that stuff. So those two come to mind.
Do you think it's hard these days because of all the distractions, because of all the gadgets, and we're always addicted to our cell phones, that you find young people that are taking up instruments don't have the same practice regimen that you did growing up?
Yeah, that's true. They're looking for shortcuts. Although I'll be honest, young musicians are very smart too. They're figuring out very creative ways to broadcast what they do, even at a young age, to connect, collaborate. You know, you can find 15-year-old sax players with like 20,000 Instagram followers just because they grew into it. They grew up with it. So
I'm stuck at 3 something. I can't.
3,000?
No, 300.
Oh. Well, that's, you know what? That's good. It's hard to grow on Instagram. It's a different kind of platform. So, yeah, I young kids are doing a lot of good things too, and they have great taste in music. I know jazz players who disagree with me, but I think a lot of young kids have a great eclectic taste in music. But yeah, they the people who are not serious about it do get weeded out. So, kids that are slacking off, they'll figure it out. It's still a very cutthroat. You can't take shortcuts when you really get into the music world. Theater, band leading, raising a family, figuring out how to make money. You have to make money at it. I know a lot of musicians pride themselves on being quasi-socialist, but that doesn't really work when you have to pay musicians. And if I told my band that I was a socialist, which believe me, I am not, if I told them that I was, I wouldn't have a band. So they, there's a lot of things that you learn when you really get into the real world. People need to be paid well. You pay people well, they give you great service, you get paid more. It's a great thing. That's the great thing about this country. You can make your own way, make money, and complaining gets you nowhere. So figure out a way, find that angle, and make it happen.
Sounds like great advice to me. What's coming up next for you? I know you have a residency here in New York. Mm-hmm. How often you're at the Times Square Marriott?
Yeah, we're at the Residence in Times Square every Thursday. This is our second year in residency every week. You can find it linked on the website. It's on 6th Avenue and 39th Street. We're at a place called Tommy Jazz in Midtown Manhattan once a month. Also, I'm going to be starting up an off-Broadway show called Blank the Musical, which actually I played about 5 years ago. It had a great run at New World Stages right across the hall from Avenue Q. And it's an improvised musical. Believe it or not, the whole show is improvised. Acting, singing, dancing, music. The audience suggests all the plot and all this. There's this crazy. It's a really really crazy apparatus that they built to put on a show. The audience picks virtually everything. So I play woodwinds in that show, and we're starting that. We're going to do a little revival of that next month. And touring. Going to be in San Francisco. Going to Boston actually in March for some shows. Haven't been up there in a while. So it's busy, a lot of things, and hopefully playing on that show with you. I will know very soon.
That sounds great. Taking away Boston, what's your favorite city to go tour at?
I do love the Bay Area, San Francisco.
Well, you have that cool West Coast jazz appeal to you, so.
Well, if you say so. I do love the Bay Area. I love the Pacific Northwest, Seattle, beautiful area to play. We enjoy, playing anywhere. I mean, we've done a lot of stuff. We travel, overseas, different countries, playing. Well, we did a year ago. We did a tour through Nebraska and Kansas. We did 3 shows in Kansas: Leavenworth, Topeka. I forget the third, but even out in Kansas, there's just great places to play and great listeners. So probably didn't answer your question, but a lot of places. They're all great.
Where have you played overseas?
I did some stuff in Italy, Milan, Switzerland. I did some touring with a group called Moosener. This was just as a sideman, and we did some stuff over there. That's another sort of folk jazz. That's a big group. That's like a 10-piece ensemble. So I do try to do as much as I can sideman work too, not just leading. So when I can, but my band will be over there hopefully in the fall or winter. So, every day is different. You're in a new place and you're working with new people, and you have to shape shift. You have to always sort of become something else every day. Well,
that sounds all excellent, and we really wish you the best of luck. Before we let you go, you take music out of your life, not fully, but just when you're not playing, when you're not touring. What are you doing? What are you enjoying?
I'm sitting on the couch staring at the wall. I'm resting. Well, I'm with the kids and my wife. Hanging out with the family. Mm-hmm. I try to go see music, friends perform, but honestly, Mike, a lot of times it's just reconnecting with some friends, relaxing. I'm a simple guy. I really am. All the outward craziness of doing things and traveling, that's just my job. But really, at home, I'm sitting around in my sweatpants, making my 5th cup of coffee, trying to get the television to work because we still have a TV from like 1996. We have to get anyways, just being me, simple. Mm-hmm. A simple life.
Well, you are certainly making the most of your life, and honestly, we wish you continued success, and it's an honor to have you on the program and have played with you before, because you are truly one of the best. And hopefully when you get your Kennedy Center honor many years from now, they'll talk about this broadcast as one of the watershed moments in your career.
You're funny. No, it's good. Michael, thank you for having me on your show. I'm a big fan, so let's do it again, and we'll be playing again soon.
Thank you. I look forward to that. We'll be right back to wrap things up after this break. Marvelous Mike and Friends. Boy, I tell you, is that not a fun interview? Is he not one of the nicest and really best interviews we've ever had on the show? So I thank you, Daniel. And like I said, much continued success. And if you get a chance to go to one of his shows, or if you're around the country, look him up. Make sure you go follow him, because he's one of the best that there is. And it's just me now. I don't know where Harry went, but I want to thank everybody. Are we there already? Well, yes, I guess by that sound we are. I want to thank everybody for tuning into this week. I tell you, if he shared the link to his Twitter followers and on Facebook, we may break records with our listeners. So I thank you all for listening and taking part. Harry, as always, and Daniel Bennett of the Daniel Bennett Group for that wonderful interview. Good luck to everything you do. And to everybody listening, have a wonderful Easter season. And remember, friends, if you want to know the quickest way to get to Harlem, take that A train. Good night, and God bless you all.
This has been a production of the Minto Entertainment Broadcasting Network.